You ever have one of those nights where everything just feels off, but you can't really explain why? This happened to me a few years back, and even now I can't shake it. I've told the story a few times, but every time I do, it gives me chills. So grab a blanket and settle in. It's not the blood and guts kind of scary. This is the type of story that creeps under your skin slowly and stays there. It all happened in late October of 2017. I was driving trucks for a small distribution company out of Iowa. My name's Brian, been driving big rigs for about 12 years now. Back then, I worked mostly alone, hauling overnight loads through the Midwest. I liked the quiet. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the open road. But this trip, this one was different. I'd been assigned a haul from Cedar Falls down to a warehouse near a tiny place called Dagger Pine, Missouri. Ever heard of it? No? That's because it's not even on some maps. Population barely cracks 400, and most of the town is just forest and hills. Anyway, it was a cold Monday afternoon. Sky was that dull, overcast gray like a wet napkin, and I had a tight delivery window. I set off around 3 p.m., hoping to make it there by midnight so I wouldn't have to sleep in the cab. I hate sleeping in the truck. It always feels like something's watching from the trees. I know, weird, right? But that's how it feels. By the time it hit midnight, I was about 40 miles out from Dagger Pine. I was exhausted, but figured I could push through. My eyelids were heavy and the road looked endless. You ever get so tired your brain starts filling in things that aren't there? That's where I was. I even rubbed water on my face to stay awake, which only helped a little. The road I was on, Route 84, was a narrow 2-lane stretch through deep woods. No streetlights, no towns nearby, just trees and shadows, and I hadn't seen another car for maybe an hour. I remember glancing down to grab my water bottle, and when I looked back up, bam, someone was standing in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes so hard the tires screeched like an animal. The truck lurched, everything inside rattling. I barely stopped in time. My heart was pounding. At first I thought it was just a guy walking home or something. He was wearing all black coat, pants, boots, everything, and he had a long scarf wrapped tight around his neck. But here's where things got weird. His neck looked too long. Like not just tall guy long, I'm talking stretched. Almost giraffe-like, and the scarf didn't really hide it. It looked like it was trying to. His face was blurry. Not out of focus blurry, but like my brain couldn't make sense of it. His features wouldn't land. 1 second I thought I saw a nose, then it was gone. No expression. Just blank, he didn't move. Just stood there facing me, so I reached for the window thinking I'd ask if he needed help. But before I could even roll it down, he turned sharply and sprinted into the woods, and I mean sprinted. Not walked, not jogged. He took off like something was chasing him, or like he was chasing something else. Now look, I'm not proud of this, but I didn't stop to figure anything out. I hit the gas and kept going. Fast. Too fast for a semi on those winding roads. I didn't care. About 20 seconds later, my brain caught up to what just happened. My stomach turned. I was breathing hard without realizing it. The hair on my arm stood straight up. I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was probably just some local playing a prank or a drifter passing through. But that explanation felt hollow. Then maybe 5 minutes later, bam. Something ran across the road again. It was fast, low to the ground like a large animal. My headlights barely caught it. But as it darted into the trees on the other side, I saw arms. Human arms, too long. Moving wrong. I didn't even touch the brakes this time. I just kept going, jaw clenched, eyes wide open, trying not to blink. The rest of the drive was a blur, but I was swerving from sheer exhaustion. I had about 30 miles left and didn't know if I could stay awake. My body was shutting down. I spotted a gravel pull-off up ahead. It looked like a small rest stop, just enough space to park without blocking the road. I figured I'd close my eyes for a bit. Just 30 minutes maybe, enough to make it the rest of the way safely. I parked, shut the engine off, leaned back and closed my eyes. The cab was quiet, dark, peaceful even. I must have dozed off quick, then I woke up. No idea how long I'd been out. Maybe 45 minutes. maybe an hour, but something was wrong. You ever wake up with that feeling that someone's in the room with you even though you're alone? That's what it felt like. My skin was crawling. I didn't hear anything. Didn't see anything, but I knew. I turned on the headlights just to ease my nerves, and there he was, standing right in front of my truck. The same guy from before, but this time I could see his face. His mouth was stretched into the widest grin I've ever seen. Not happy. Not friendly. Just wrong. It reached too far up both sides of his face, like his cheeks had been slit open. His eyes were bulging wide open and locked on me through the windshield. He didn't blink. Didn't move. I stared back, frozen. Then I snapped out of it, jammed the keys in the ignition, and pulled the rig out of that clearing as fast as I could. I don't know how I didn't jackknife or tip the trailer. Here's the part that still messes with me. I had driven at least 10 miles from where I first saw him. How did he get there so fast? He was on foot. I never passed a car, never saw headlights behind me, and the woods are too thick for someone to run through like that. I didn't stop again until I made it to the warehouse in Dagger Pine. I didn't even unload the cargo, just parked, locked the doors, and slept in the lot. Sun came up and everything felt normal again, but I couldn't shake what I saw. I told my dispatcher I was sick and needed a day off. Drove back home without taking another route like that again. I tried looking up strange sightings on Route 84. Didn't find much, but I did find one article, an old blog post from years ago, about a man people sometimes see on that road. Always at night, always with a scarf, sometimes smiling, sometimes just staring. Nobody who sees him ever seems to forget him. I still dream about that face sometimes, that stretched out smile, those wide, watching eyes. If you ever find yourself near Dagger Pine, Missouri, and you're driving late at night, don't stop. Don't sleep on the side of the road, and if you see someone standing in the middle of the street, just keep driving. Whatever it is, it's not someone you want to meet twice. Have you ever had one of those jobs that just sticks with you, like, long after you've quit, it still shows up in your dreams? Yeah, for me, that job was driving for a delivery company back in 2017. I was 22, fresh out of community college and just trying to pay rent while I figured life out. I worked for one of those big shipping companies, wore the brown uniform, drove the big boxy truck, the whole deal. The job was all right, long hours but decent pay, and I liked being on the road. I didn't have to deal with customers too much, and I could listen to music or podcasts while I drove through small towns and back roads. Anyway, I was stationed in this quiet kind of rundown area in rural Pennsylvania. The town was called Brookridge, and it looked like it hadn't changed since the 70s. Rusted mailboxes, paint peeling off houses, woods pressing in on every side. Some parts were totally deserted, like whole streets with nothing but boarded-up homes and crooked mailboxes. Other parts had little clusters of trailers or run-down houses that looked like they'd collapse in a strong wind. One Thursday in mid-January, I had a late shift. It was one of those gray, freezing days where the sky just hangs there like a dirty sheet. The kind of cold that cuts through your jacket no matter how many layers you're wearing. The sun dipped behind the trees by 4:30, and by 5, the roads were swallowed in that kind of early winter darkness that feels thicker than night. I had a few more stops left before I could clock out, and I was already dreaming of the space heater in my apartment and a microwaved burrito. Most of my route had gone fine. Quiet streets, a couple friendly dogs, nobody giving me trouble. But then I saw it, the last stop. It was on a road called Hollow Creek Lane, way out past where most of the other houses were. You know how GPS sometimes tells you to turn onto what barely looks like a road? Yeah, it was one of those. The street was narrow, barely more than a dirt path with ice patches and potholes. On one side, there were scattered trailers and tiny homes, spaced out with big chunks of woods between them. On the other side, just trees. Endless black trees. The address on the screen blinked at me, 942 Hollow Creek Lane. The note said, "Signature required," which meant I couldn't just drop the box and go. I had to actually hand it off to someone. I pulled up in front of the place and right away something felt off. The trailer looked like it hadn't been lived in for years. The siding was stained and dented, and one of the windows had cardboard taped over it. There were no lights on, no car in the driveway, not even footprints in the snow leading to the door. Just silence. I checked the box. Big one. Heavy. Something metallic rattling inside sounded like loose parts or maybe tools. I couldn't tell, and honestly I didn't care. I just wanted to finish the shift. I hauled the box out of the back of the truck and carried it up the icy steps. No doorbell, of course. I knocked. Nothing. I knocked again, louder. Just as I was about to leave a note and walk away, I heard it. A soft shuffle inside, like bare feet on a floor. Then the curtain beside the door moved just a little. A minute passed, then another. I was about to say screw it when the door opened just a crack. Not enough to see anyone fully, just enough for a pale, wrinkled face to peek out. It was an older woman. Her gray hair was tangled, like she'd just woken up from a bad dream. Her eyes looked cloudy, like she wasn't all there. "You're Dylan," she said, not a question. Like she already knew. That stopped me cold. My name's not on the uniform, not on the truck. And I'd never seen her before in my life. I blinked. Yeah. "You're waiting on a package?" She stared at me for a few seconds, then nodded slowly and opened the door all the way. "Come in. It's heavy, right?" "I can't carry that. You'll have to bring it to the back. Now look, I've helped people bring packages inside before. It's part of the job sometimes." But something about this woman in that trailer, it all felt wrong. The air smelled weird, like mildew and rotting meat. The floor inside looked warped, like it had water damage. And the hallway behind her was dark. Too dark. Still, I told myself I was just being dramatic. I stepped inside. The smell hit harder once I was in. Not just rot. Something sour and wet and almost coppery, like rusted metal and old blood. I tried not to breathe too deeply. She shuffled ahead of me, her bare feet making soft slapping sounds on the linoleum floor. "It goes in the back room." Closet doors open. We passed a tiny living room where a TV buzzed with static even though it was unplugged. I'm not even kidding. The cord was hanging loose from the wall and the screen still flickered. I should have left right then, but I didn't. The hallway to the back was narrow and freezing. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and weird dark stains trailed along the baseboards. I carried the box, awkward and heavy, toward the room at the end. She stopped at the door. "Light's busted," she said. "But you can see fine. Just put it in the closet." The room was nearly pitch black. Only the faintest bit of light from the living room reached it. Just enough to show a shadowy bed, some boxes, and that open closet. I stepped inside, my boots creaking on the wooden floor. The smell was worse here, thick, like something had died and been left for weeks. I moved toward the closet, holding the box out in front of me, and that's when I saw it. Someone was standing inside the closet, not the old woman. Someone else. Just barely visible, tall, hunched, pressed against the corner like they were trying to melt into the walls. I couldn't see their face, but I saw fingers gripping the doorframe. Long, pale fingers twitching slightly. I froze. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just stared. The figure shifted slightly. Not toward me, just twitching, like it was waiting. I turned, fast, almost dropped the box. "Actually, I'll just leave this here," I said quickly, already backing away. The woman was still standing in the hallway, smiling now, but her eyes didn't smile. "You sure you don't want to stay a while, Dylan?" she asked softly. I didn't answer. I walked right past her, down the hallway, through the living room, and out the front door without looking back. She started yelling behind me, words I couldn't make out. Maybe they weren't even English. Her voice got louder, more desperate. Something banged against the inside of the trailer, hard. I threw the box in the truck, slammed the door, and took off. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the wheel. I didn't finish the route that night. I drove straight back to the lot, left a note for my manager and went home. I didn't sleep. Not really. The next day I started looking for new jobs. I never went back to Hollow Creek Lane. Never found out who the person in the closet was. Never found out how that woman knew my name. But sometimes when I'm alone, I swear I still smell that house. That sour coppery rot, like something that should have stayed hidden was let out for just a second and almost reached me. So yeah, that's the story. And if you ever find yourself on a road that doesn't feel quite right, delivering a box to someone who shouldn't know your name, don't go inside. I've been driving trucks for most of my adult life. Started when I was 24, and now at 42 I've seen just about everything the open road can throw at you. Or at least I thought I had. But there's one night, back in the summer of 2017, that still creeps into my head every now and then. And no matter how many times I tell myself it was just a weird coincidence, something about it never sits right. It started with a regular delivery job. I was hauling a trailer full of handcrafted furniture from a warehouse just outside Austin, Texas, to a boutique shop way up in the northern tip of the state. The route cuts through miles of empty, winding highways, those forgotten roads where towns are spread thin, and you're more likely to see a coyote than another driver. I'd driven that kind of route before. Easy, quiet, peaceful even, but this one felt off from the start. I got a late start that day. The loading dock had some issues with paperwork, so I didn't even pull out of the yard until around 5:30 in the evening. I knew it'd be a long overnight haul, but that didn't bother me. I actually like driving at night, less traffic, more calm. But tonight, there was no calm, just quiet. A weird, heavy kind of quiet. The kind that presses in on your ears. About 3 hours in, I was deep in the middle of nowhere. No lights, no houses, no signs. Just flat land, dried out grass, and an endless 2-lane road cutting through the dark. That's when I spotted it. A pair of flashing hazard lights way up ahead. You could barely see them at first, just little red flickers bouncing on the horizon. I slowed down and coasted up behind it. It was an old, beat-up black sedan, maybe a Ford or a Dodge from the early 2000s. It was pulled off onto the dirt shoulder, sitting crooked with one of the back doors cracked open slightly. No one was moving around. No one is waving for help. Just those hazards blinking like a heartbeat in the dark. I sat there for a second, engine idling, staring at the car. Something about it made the hair on my arms rise up, but I couldn't just leave it. What if someone was stranded or hurt? So I climbed out of my truck and walked over. The closer I got, the weirder it felt. I knocked on the driver's side window. Nothing. Knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. I peeked inside and right away I saw nothing. Literally. No one in the front seat. I walked around to the other side and looked in all the windows. The car was completely empty. It didn't look ransacked or broken into. No blood, no mess. Just an abandoned car with its lights on and a door slightly open. I looked around, trying to spot someone nearby. But the only thing surrounding us was darkness and dry, cracking brush that stretched for miles. Then I noticed something to the right, maybe 50 yards off the road. My flashlight, a sturdy, blinding one I keep for emergencies, caught the outline of a building. An old gas station, half collapsed and barely visible in the dark. The sign out front was missing most of its letters. Only Lee's Fill-Up remained, swinging in the wind. I figured if the driver of the car went anywhere, that would be it. So I made my way toward the building, boots crunching on dry gravel. The gas station had 2 old pumps out front, long since gutted. Everything about the place screamed forgotten. The front door was wide open, well, what was left of it. It looked like someone had kicked it off its hinges years ago. I stepped inside, shining my light across the room. It used to be a little convenience store, probably. There were broken shelves, a half-toppled fridge, and graffiti on the walls. Dust floated through the air like tiny ghosts. It smelled like mildew and something else, metallic. Faint, but there, I called out, and hello? Anyone here? I saw your car out front. No answer. The light from my flashlight caught movement in the back. Just a flicker. Maybe a shadow, maybe a person ducking behind one of the empty shelves. My heart skipped. I called out again, a little louder this time. Then I heard it. A scraping sound. Like the sole of a boot dragging across the floor. Slow. Deliberate. Coming from the far end of the room. I stopped moving. Listened hard. That's when I heard a voice. Low and raspy, like someone trying to talk through sandpaper. Just one word. Leave. It was so quiet I almost thought I imagined it. But I didn't. I know I didn't. It was real. The sound of it made my chest tighten. Something about the way it was said, like a warning, not a request. And then I heard breathing. Not mine. Deep, uneven breathing from the back corner of the store. It was the kind of sound that hits something primal in you. A sound that says, you're not alone, and you're not safe. I didn't wait to find out more. I turned and booked it back toward my truck, my boots slamming the floor like gunshots. As I reached the door, something behind me, something back in that dark gas station, made a noise I'll never forget. I still don't know how to describe it. A kind of warbled, choking sound, like someone trying to scream while underwater. I froze for a split second, just enough time to hear another sound. Quick footsteps. Not running, staggering, fast. I jumped into my truck, locked the doors, and grabbed my phone to call 911. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. When they picked up, I tried to explain where I was, but I didn't know what road I was even on. All I could say was, I'm somewhere near an abandoned gas station. There's a car out here. I think something bad happened. While I was on the call, still staring at that empty car in front of me, its headlights suddenly flicked off. A second later, the engine roared to life. I nearly dropped the phone. The car peeled out, kicking up dust as it tore down the highway. I didn't even see anyone get into it. I swear I never looked away. I never saw the door open. It just turned on and drove away. Something told me I needed to check inside that building one more time. I know, every horror movie tells you not to, but I had to. With the 911 dispatcher still on the line, I went back inside. This time I followed the sound of the breathing. I stepped behind the shelves slowly, flashlight shaking in my hand. That's when I saw it. A dark wet stain on the floor. Fresh blood. Still glistening. Still dripping. There was nobody there, no weapon. Just that pool of blood spreading like something alive. I told the dispatcher exactly what I saw. A few minutes later, I heard the sound of sirens in the distance. The state troopers showed up in full force, 5 cars, all lights flashing. They asked me everything. What I saw. What I heard. What kind of car it was. What I thought had happened. I told them it was a black sedan, early 2000s. I heard someone say leave. Then a woman screamed. Then the car sped off. That was all I had. No plate number. No dash cam. Just my memory, and that creeping feeling that I'd walked in on something I wasn't supposed to see. They took blood samples, marked the area. Thank you for the call. But no one ever told me what happened. No follow-up. No closure. A week later, I installed a dash cam in my truck. And ever since that night, every time I drive through a stretch of empty highway in the dark, I find myself watching the shadows a little more closely. Listening for strange sounds in the static of the radio. Checking the rearview mirror more than I should, because some nights, even years later, I still hear that whisper. Leave.